In the heart of Abuja city, nestled between the dusty outposts of Zuba and the hills of Gwagwalada, sat the old village of Banza. Though the modern world hummed just beyond the roads, this village clung to its sacred traditions. Among them, one stood above all, the sacred pot of Adobe, a vessel said to bind the village's peace. It was forbidden to touch, whisper near, or even glance too long at the pot. Yet one girl did. Her name was Nnenna. Nnenna was 17, sharp-eyed and wild-hearted, with skin the deep hue of roasted shay. Her braided hair was often tied with red beads, and her laugh could silence a crying child. She never cared for the old ways. "How can a pot protect anyone?" she had once whispered to her younger brother. That whisper, they say, was the beginning of the end. That afternoon, the clouds darkened before their time. As the elders gathered to chant the harvest blessings, Nnenna wandered into the shrine. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was anger, but her fingers brushed the pot's rim, a simple, fleeting touch. The air hissed, the ground trembled, the pot cracked, the sky erupted in a roar. Thunder bellowed over the hills, and lightning clawed the baobab trees. Chickens fled, goats wailed, and the sacred well began to spit up blood-red water. The villagers screamed as ground fissures split through the market square. An old man fell into one and was never seen again. Elder Amaka, tall and gaunt with white tribal markings, rushed into the shrine just as Nnenna dropped to her knees. Her hands were shaking, lips trembling. The pot now lay in two broken halves, steaming as though it held fire inside. Elder Amaka's eyes widened, her voice a whisper of dread. "You've called the old ones, child. You have cursed us all." That night the council gathered. Nnenna's mother wept in silence. Her father, a respected palm wine tapper, refused to speak. The village demanded exile. But Amaka raised her wrinkled hand. "No," she said. "Not yet. Let her seek forgiveness. Let her try to reverse the curse. Or she dies by fire at moon's end." The elders handed Nnenna a torn map wrapped in goat hide. "The only chance lies with the blind seer of Jokoi," said Amaka. "But she sees only the truth, and her price is never light." Clad in a simple wrapper and leather sandals, Nnenna set off before dawn. Her younger brother, Kelechi, snuck after her, insisting he would not let her face it alone. "We are not just born of the same mother," he said, panting beside her. "We are born of the same mistake." They crossed the bridge of whispers, where spirits spoke in wind chimes. They passed through the drummer's forest, where ghosts played skin drums with no hands. All the while, a crow with glowing eyes circled above, cawing like it was counting down to death. The blind seer lived in a hut carved into the side of a rock, her face veiled in cowrie shells. Her voice cracked like dry leaves. "You broke the pot of Adobe? Foolish blood." Nnenna fell to her knees, tears blinding her vision. "I seek to undo it. What must I do?" "Bring me the water of echoes from the cave under Zuma Rock." "But beware," said the seer. "It remembers every lie you've ever told. And it punishes silence even more." The entrance to the cave pulsed with a hum, alive like a beating heart. Inside, the walls shimmered with light that wasn't there. As they ventured deeper, voices began to repeat their words. Then they started to twist them. Nnenna said, "I am sorry." The echoes replied, "You enjoyed it." She turned to Kelechi. "Don't listen. It's just..." But the echoes screamed back, "You lied to him all your life." At the center of the cave sat a pool, still as glass, glowing with a silver hue. The moment Nnenna stepped forward, the water rippled and showed her past. The time she betrayed her friend for praise, the lie she told that led to a girl's public beating. She collapsed. "I am wicked." But Kelechi took her hand. "Then be wicked no more. Take the water." She filled the gourd. But as they turned to leave, the cave asked, "What about your final secret? The one you never told anyone?" The ground split beneath Kelechi. He dangled over the abyss, clutching a root. Tell it, or I fall, he screamed. Nnenna trembled. I hated you when Mother died. I blamed you. I wished you drowned. The cave fell silent. Then it closed the pit. Kelechi was saved, but he looked away. They arrived to find half the village burned. People screamed in the night, their dreams haunted by fire. Elder Amaka was dying. Her voice was barely a whisper. You have the water? Then you must anoint the broken pot. But first, someone must die, as payment. Who? Nnenna asked, voice hoarse. The one who holds your heart the most. Nnenna stood before the shrine, gourd in one hand, her brother beside her. Kelechi looked into her eyes. I forgive you, but if it saves them, I will die for them. She screamed, dropped the gourd, and threw herself into the fire instead. The sky cleared. Rain fell. The pot reformed. Crops grew overnight. But Kelechi found only ash where Nnenna stood. The curse lifted. But one elder turned to another and whispered, And now who holds her secrets? That night, Kelechi heard her voice again. Soft, broken, calling his name from the wind. He ran to the shrine, barefoot and breathless. The ashes of his sister swirled upward in a spiral, forming her silhouette, a glowing mirage that cried without sound. Kelechi, they lied to me. They lied to us all. Before he could speak, the wind scattered her again. But in the dirt beneath the pot, something shimmered. A second pot. Older. Blacker. Cracked long ago. Kelechi brought the black shard to Elder Amaka's hut. She was alive barely. The moment her fingers touched it, her eyes filled with terror. This should have never been found. What is it? Kelechi demanded. The first pot. The one we broke. To hide our betrayal. To cover our sins. We used the Otto Obi to bind our guilt. Long ago, the elders of Banza made a pact. To stop the war between clans, they summoned a spirit and sealed it in a clay pot. But the spirit demanded blood yearly. So they lied. They said the pot was sacred, peaceful, and protective. Every decade we choose someone to feed the spirit quietly. But this time, Nnenna broke the illusion. Kelechi stepped back. You killed innocents. Lied to us. And now she paid for your crimes. That night, under the mango trees, children began to speak in tongues. One boy dug his hands into his own chest, screaming, The debt is unpaid. Crows circled the village endlessly. Drums beat themselves. And the sacred pot, whole again, began to weep thick black oil. Kelechi stood in the square. No more lies. No more sacrifices. We end this now. In the ruined library beneath the old council hut, Kelechi found it, a book bound in hide, etched with old Nsibidi symbols. Inside, a ritual to unbind the spirit forever. But the price? The line of the liar must end. Kelechi touched his chest. He was the last of his line. As the moon rose, Nnenna appeared in his dream. But it felt real. Her skin glowed like burning charcoal. You must do it, she said. End it, or I will never rest. Kelechi wept. Why must it be me? Because you still have a choice. They never did. Kelechi knew the ritual alone wouldn't be enough. The book whispered of a final name, the Oracle of the Red Hills, a seer who once dared speak against the elders and was cast out. It was said she lived beneath the hills that turned crimson at dusk, her tongue cut out, yet her voice still heard in dreams. He journeyed through Abuja's outskirts, crossing the markets of Kubwa and through the silent valley of dust. At the foot of the Red Hills, he found her dwelling, a cave lined with hanging bones and red cloth strips fluttering like angry tongues. The oracle appeared without warning. Her skin was wrinkled like burnt paper, her eyes milky. Though her mouth was sewn shut, her voice filled the cave. You carry her guilt and their shame. What will you sacrifice to speak the truth? To receive the oracle's guidance, Kelechi had to offer something personal, his voice. She placed her hand over his throat, and suddenly he could no longer speak. His words left him, like smoke through his nostrils. He gasped mute, but his mind filled with her visions. She showed him the first binding, a river of blood, a pot born from betrayal, and an unborn child who was promised to the spirit but never delivered. That child was Nnenna. She was never meant to live. The oracle's voice echoed in his skull. She broke the pot because her spirit was never truly bound. She is the curse and the cure. If she returns in form, the spirit must face her. But to bring her back fully, you must give her your final breath. Kelechi left the oracle's cave, his throat burning with silence. In the markets of Day, he found a griot, a singer of the old ways, who agreed to trade voices. The griot was blind, forgotten, and eager to be heard again. Your voice carries pain. I'll take it, the griot said, touching Kelechi's throat. In a burst of light and sound, Kelechi could speak again, but his tone was different, deeper, layered with echoes of the griot's sorrow. He walked the road back to Banza, his new voice causing animals to pause and trees to bow. The land itself was listening now. The village was under siege, not by armies but by their own past. The ground bled. Statues wept. The night never truly came, only dusk that stretched unnaturally. The elders stood in a circle at the sacred square, their eyes hollow, chanting names in reverse. Kelechi stepped into the center, holding both the book and the shard of the first pot. The time of lies is over, he declared. You fed the spirit. You killed the truth. Now you will face what you summoned. Suddenly, the pot cracked again. A hand burst out, slender, charred, unmistakably Nnenna's. She pulled herself into the world, her eyes burning with light and fury. Nnenna stood taller now, wrapped in flames that didn't consume her. Her voice was not hers alone. It carried the voices of all the sacrificed. Children, women, men. Each syllable shook the ground. You feared the truth, so you dressed it in clay, she said, facing the elders. You feared my birth, so you cursed it with false holiness. But I am here now, and I remember. One elder fell to his knees, weeping. Another tried to flee, but a vine burst from the earth and dragged him back. The sacred ground had become a court, and Nnenna was its judge. Under the moon's glare, Nnenna summoned the memories of the dead. Spirits rose like mist, pointing at each elder with haunting clarity. Elder Amaka tried to speak, but her tongue turned to ash. Kelechi stood beside Nnenna, silent. He knew this was justice, but his heart ached. What will become of them? He whispered. Their names will be unremembered, she replied. Their line ends with them. But the village will live, if it learns. The pot reformed once more, but this time it was transparent. The village saw their history reflected in it, betrayals, sacrifices, love, and cowardice. It could not be hidden. Children gathered around it, touching its surface and seeing the truth. No elder could go near. They burned if they tried. The pot had chosen its new guardians, the innocent. But Kelechi knew peace had not yet come. Nnenna was fading. The flames were dimming. She smiled at him, tearful. You have one more chapter to write. Kelechi sat beneath the sacred baobab tree, watching Nnenna from a distance. Her body glowed faintly now, embers trailing from her limbs like falling petals. Each time she spoke, a flicker of her soul dimmed, as if her presence in the living world was being burned away with every truth she revealed. She approached him that evening. Kelechi, she whispered, her voice now softer. When the last lie dies, so will I. You must prepare them. He clenched his fists. No, I won't lose you again. You brought justice. You gave them a future. Doesn't that count for something? She looked past him, at the pot surrounded by silent children. Peace has a price. I am that price. That night, as wind howled across the hilltops, the dead returned. But not as spirits of vengeance. They were echoes of the ones never properly mourned. Wives who vanished. Children who disappeared in the forest. Husbands lost in ritual silence. They walked among the huts, not attacking, but weeping. Their cries turned into songs, ancient melodies of longing. The villagers came out one by one, many dropping to their knees, recognizing the faces of the forgotten. Nnenna stood in the center of the village square, arms raised. Let them be honored. Let them be seen. If you truly want redemption, name them all. Speak their names into the wind. All night long, names were spoken. Every family, every home, gave names to the forgotten. And with each name, a golden light floated up into the sky, etching itself into the stars like a constellation. By dawn, the entire village stood in silence. In the sky above Banza was a spiral of names, written in glowing Nsibiti script, slowly circling. The earth no longer bled. The trees no longer moaned. The pot now hummed a quiet, contented song. But Nnenna's feet had begun to vanish. She looked down and saw only mist. There is a way to keep her, whispered the oracle of the Red Hills, who had come unseen through the night. But it is not free. One must take her place. A soul for a soul. The villagers looked around in confusion. Murmurs rippled. Elder Amaka, barely alive, stepped forward. I deserve this. Let me pay. Nnenna shook her head. No, redemption is not purchased. It is earned. Kelechi turned to her. Then let me go instead. Nnenna screamed. No, you are the only one who believed in me. The only one who never stopped. I can't lose you. But Kelechi stepped into the flames circling her. As he did, his skin did not burn. Instead, he began to glow with the same fire that once crowned her. He turned to the village. She showed you the truth. Let me carry the memory. Let me burn so the light stays. With a final embrace, their hands touched. A blinding light engulfed the square. When it faded, Nnenna stood whole, human, trembling. Kelechi was gone. Weeks passed. The pot no longer glowed. It stood silent, sealed. The villagers dismantled the council of elders and instead formed a circle of youth and wisdom, half made up of children who had touched the pot. Nnenna became the keeper of stories, teaching every child the truth, the full truth, of their history, of sacrifice, of betrayal and redemption. The fields yielded crops like never before. Rain fell when it was needed. The sacred well turned clear. The land had forgiven them. But they would never forget the price. One night, as Nnenna sat under the stars, she heard a whisper. Nnenna! She turned, heart racing. It was Kelechi's voice, riding the wind. The stars above still shimmered in Nsibiti script, but now in their center, one name pulsed brighter than all. Kelechi. Even with the pot silenced and the village reborn, something restless stirred beneath the earth. One of the new children, little Zuba, no older than 6, fell into a trance while sweeping outside the old council hut. She began to dig with her hands, uncovering a mound of scorched bones and blackened clay fragments. Nnenna rushed to the scene, sensing the energy shift. The bones pulsed faintly. These aren't just remains, she whispered. They're bound. That night, she gathered the youth council. Together, they uncovered over a dozen buried vessels, each holding whispers of trapped souls, the forgotten sacrifices from generations past. Their voices cried out in the wind, demanding release. The next dawn, Nnenna and the children prepared a mass funeral. Each pot was carried through the village with solemn drumming. Families watched as the long-denied names were finally spoken aloud, their stories retold, their truths given breath. The burial grounds glowed as they laid the pots in a wide circle. Songs once forbidden now filled the air, songs that told of justice, of pain, and of healing. As the last pot was lowered, a wind surged upward, whirling through the burial site, and the sky cracked open with golden light. The village trembled not with fear, but reverence. The dead had finally been honored. Only one pot remained, a cracked vessel sealed with thorny rope and smeared in dried blood. It belonged to Elder Chikwi, the one who had vanished decades ago after refusing to offer his chosen sacrifice. His spirit had never found rest. That night, Nnenna felt eyes watching her. Shadows moved where there was no light. In the shrine, the cracked pot burst open, and Chikwi's spirit rose, twisted, skeletal, bitter. You freed them, but I defied them and still suffer. I kept my child. I paid with my soul. Chikwi's ghost hovered above the shrine, cold wind trailing behind him. His story unfurled like smoke. How he had once loved too fiercely, refused to choose between tradition and compassion, and was chained by the very elders he stood against. I do not seek vengeance, he told Nnenna, I seek truth. Reveal what they did to me, or I will haunt every birth, every harvest. Nnenna vowed to uncover his story and give it voice. The next morning, she addressed the village and began a trial unlike any they had seen before. One for the dead. Villagers gathered at the old square. In the center, Nnenna laid out pieces of Chikwi's life. His journals, testimonies from the oracle, and dreams shared by children who carried fragments of his memories. One elder, now frail and nearly blind, broke down. We silenced him. We feared he would unravel us. So we declared him mad and buried him alive. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Children cried. Mothers covered their mouths. Justice, once buried, was rising again. At sunset, the village lit a fire at the base of Zuma Rock. Chikwi's cracked pot was placed in the center. Nnenna poured water from the sacred well over it and whispered, You are remembered. You are forgiven. You are free. The flames burst gold. Chikwi's spirit smiled, for the first time unburdened. He rose with the fire and vanished into the stars. A soft wind blew across Banza, smelling of rain and mango. The blind griot who had traded voices with Kelechi returned, led by a child. He spoke in riddles now, his eyes filled with a different kind of vision. The boy who burned still walks, he told Nnenna cryptically. But not on this land. He walks where stories live. Find him in the river of memory. Nnenna's breath caught. She had dreamed of Kelechi each night, seeing him in flashes of fire and water. Was there a way back? Guided by the griot and accompanied by 3 children who bore the pot's light, Nnenna traveled beyond Kyuj, through whispering grasslands until they reached the river of memory. It was not water but liquid reflection, showing visions to those who dared look. As Nnenna gazed in, her reflection blurred, replaced by Kelechi's face. You remember me still, he said. Then I am not gone. But to touch me again, you must give up what you've become. To enter the river, Nnenna had to surrender her gifts, the flame that shielded her, the visions that guided her, and the power of the sacred pot. You will be only Nnenna again, the griot warned. No spirit, no song. Just girl. Just heart. She nodded, tears in her eyes. That is enough. As she stepped into the water, her body shimmered, and the village far away felt a tremor, a sign something precious was passing. She found Kelechi in a place of endless dusk, standing beneath a tree that bloomed with their memories. He looked older, wiser, yet unchanged. You came, he said. I never left, she replied. They embraced. But behind them, the tree began to crackle. Time was short. They had one chance to return, as one soul reborn. Nnenna took his hand. Let the village remember us not as cursed or chosen. Let them remember us as love that never bowed to fear. As they vanished into golden light, the pot and Banza sang once more, a lullaby that told of truth, of pain, and of enduring love. In the nights following Nnenna and Kelechi's disappearance into the river of memory, the skies above Banza changed. Stars glowed brighter, forming new constellations that shifted into unfamiliar shapes. A hand reaching upward, a cracked pot mended with light, and twin silhouettes holding hands. The villagers watched in awe. Birds refused to sing during daylight. At dusk, the baobab trees whispered riddles. The sacred pot, once silent, now pulsed with golden veins and soft hums like a lullaby echoing from beyond. Children began dreaming of Nnenna and Kelechi. In every vision, they stood on the edge of a golden field, promising, "We will return, but only if you protect what we left behind." Nnenna had left behind something powerful before vanishing, a bag of crimson seeds beneath the shrine's altar. The oracle reappeared to explain, "These are seeds of memory. Plant them not in soil, but in hearts. Each who eats one will never forget. Not truth, not pain, not joy." The village hesitated. Memory was a double-edged blade. But one by one they accepted the seeds, children first, then mothers, then even the youngest of elders. With each seed consumed, a tear fell, and a truth surfaced. No more could lies survive in Banza. No more could history be rewritten. The pot glowed with satisfaction. With the truth now sacred, the villagers gathered to form a new covenant. No voice would be silenced. No story would go unheard. They broke the stones of the old council hut and built a new chamber. A circular hall, open to sky and wind, where every villager could speak. The griot led the first meeting, his voice echoing with ancestral power. "We are no longer a village of secrets. We are a people of memory. And the ones who gave everything for this must not be forgotten." Above the hall, a flame sparked and hovered, the first visible sign that Nnenna and Kelechi still watched. One morning a stranger arrived, dressed in fine clothes, with a camera hanging from his neck and a notebook filled with questions. He was from Abuja, a journalist sent to investigate strange happenings, to write about a cursed village finding light. He asked many questions, took pictures of the pot, the new council, the children reciting their truths. But when he tried to photograph the seeds, his camera shattered. "This story isn't yours to steal," whispered the wind. The man fled, but he left behind a recording, accidentally captured, a lullaby in two voices. Nnenna and Kelechi's. Months passed. Rain fell faithfully. The crops grew lush. Then, one day, a girl was born in the village, a child of no known father, her mother claiming. She came to me in a dream. She placed her hand on my belly and said, "Let the light return." The child never cried. But when she looked at the pot, it glowed warmly. Her eyes were the color of firelit clay. They named her Nkem. "What is mine stays." The oracle smiled. "She is their echo. She is their return." Nkem grew faster than normal children. By age 5, she recited songs no one remembered teaching her. At 7, she painted symbols across the council stones that caused the sky to shimmer. And when she touched the pot, it briefly showed an image. Nnenna and Kelechi walking through fields of flame, their hands entwined. They lived through her, the griot declared. Not as ghosts, not as gods, but as hope. The village began a new tradition. Each year, on the day Nnenna first broke the pot, they celebrated not a curse but courage. They sang songs of defiance, danced barefoot on the shrine steps, and painted the skies with lanterns carrying their ancestors' names. During the first festival, Nkem stepped forward and sang the lullaby of the river of memory. Her voice echoed through the hills, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. Even the wind bowed. Decades passed. The pot remained, untouched, unbroken. A child once asked, "Why don't we hide it? What if someone breaks it again?" An old woman, Nkem, now gray-haired, replied, "Because we no longer fear the truth. We honor it, and if ever it must break again, it will be because something greater needs to be born." She touched the pot gently. It hummed. The village sighed. One final omen came. A red crow, the same one that once followed Nnenna, returned. It flew thrice around the village, then landed atop the sacred pot. It dropped a single black feather and burst into flame. No ashes remained. The griot bowed. The watch has ended. The circle is closed. What was broken is now whole. Nkem gathered the children and sat beneath the great baobab. "Do you know the tale of the girl who broke the pot?" They all shouted yes. "Then tell it to me," she smiled. Each voice took a piece. Some told of betrayal, others of fire, some spoke of loss, but all ended the same way. And from a broken pot, a people found their truth. And through two hearts that burned, a village remembered how to live. The stars pulsed above. The pot hummed gently, and the story lived on. During the 50th Festival of Remembrance, as drums echoed through the valley and lanterns painted the sky, a stranger walked into Banza. His skin shimmered like soot and sun, and his eyes burned orange like coals. He said his name was Obinna, meaning father's heart. He wore a charm identical to the one Kelechi once wore, a red thread twisted with cowrie shells. When Nkem saw him, she froze. "You came back," she whispered. He knelt before her and smiled. "Only because you kept the fire alive." That night, the sacred pot began to pulse audibly, like a heartbeat. The elders gathered, fearing something terrible, but Obinna calmed them. Not fear. Fulfillment. The cycle is near its close. One final choice remains. He led them to the shrine, where he revealed the hidden truth. The pot had never been cursed. It had always been a mirror. It reflected what was inside the village. Fear, greed, guilt. Once cleansed, it became a memory. But now it must become something more, a vessel of the future. Nkem dreamed of 3 fires. One that burned, one that healed, and one that sang. The oracle interpreted the dream. The first fire was Kelachi's. The second was yours. The third belongs to one not yet born. Nkem understood. Her time was ending. A new bearer must rise. She began training the village children not in fear or worship, but in remembrance and courage.